So joining us now is the front runner for the Republican nomination for governor, and I give her that title because she has 110,000 Facebook followers. So I feel that in an unassembled convention where you got to get delegates, sign them up, but you're not going to a central location. There's no hotels. You just 12 locations. You got to drive and vote.
It's a drive-through.
I mean, I think that makes Amanda a favorite going in. I think she was a favorite if it was a primary. I think now she's a favorite in a convention. One other announced candidate, right? Kirk Cox,
yes,
former speaker. Pete Snyder expected to announce after January 20th. And who else? And then I guess that's it, right? The China guy.
Yeah, the China guy.
The China make deals with China. Glenn Youngkin sending your jobs overseas and depress wages.
Yeah, Mr. $250 million.
Mr. Gangster Bankster, right? Yeah, Mr. Goldman Sachs himself.
Yeah.
Is going to run for governor, and he's going to buy the nomination with $40 million.
He's not going to buy it in a convention.
That's what he thinks he's going to do, right?
He's not buying
He's going to buy the nomination as he's sending our jobs to China, right? He would love to get his Mitt Romney back, wouldn't he?
Oh my gosh.
John McCain and the other open border losers. All right, Amanda Chase, that was your intro. We have you as the favorite. Thanks for being with us.
Well, good morning, John and Patty. It is great to be on.
Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. Good morning.
So, no, you were going to run as an independent. If there wasn't a primary, you did that for about a day, and then decided after 24 hours that was kind of a dumb thing to do. It was really dumb. So now you're running as a Republican again in a convention. You got 110,000 Facebook followers.
Yeah, we actually, that's how many likes we have. We actually have more like 145,000 followers. But, you know, a lot of people know that I'm very principled. I do stand on principle. And I've been in grassroots politics for over a decade now. I've seen conventions, I've seen primaries, and helped a number of statewide candidates win in both. I was told whenever I first got involved with the Republican Party back in 2008, that conventions, allowed you to get a more conservative candidate. You had the party faithfuls that would show up, and typically, you would get the most conservative candidate. And I actually led the way whenever Cuccinelli ran for Attorney General. I brought over 400 delegates just from Chesterfield County. And if a lot of folks that were there that will remember, right whenever they finished counting the votes in Chesterfield, his two opponents conceded because we had so much support from my home base of Chesterfield. And by the way, they were not members of the local Chesterfield GOP, which has been honestly kind of dysfunctional for a long time. But I've been able to work around them and still win. So a lot of people were surprised initially that I was advocating for a primary back when I announced on President's Day back in February, almost a year ago, that I was going to run for governor and seeking the primary. They're like, why would you want a primary when, most conservatives really want a convention? And I'll tell you, there's a couple things. One, I'm a huge supporter of our veterans, and I was very concerned that active duty military who cannot participate in part as a convention delegate.
Look, I don't want to belabor this, Amanda. But look, we've already gone over the convention thing. My New Year's resolution: I'm going to go 1 month without saying how stupid and bad conventions are and how they destroyed the Republican Party of Virginia. What a disaster they are, and we should have primaries, and we won't have them. So a small group of unit chairs in Buchanan or God knows where can continue to destroy the party, so they can have 8 people at their meeting and be a bigwig. That's really what this is about. I'm not going to go there, okay? How are you going to win this convention?
Well, first of all, I just talked with Rich Anderson last night, and I know that Saturday 16th at 10 a.m., it looks like that's when the State Central Committee is going to be meeting. There is a possibility that those who are pro-primary, they are potentially going to make a motion to reconsider. I would tell you primaries are actually not off the table. it still could potentially come up from the primary folks. So that's what I'm being told on the street. But either way, I think for folks to understand, I have won both. For other people, I'm known as a leader in conventions and winning conventions for other people. I've won all of my races for Senate and primary, so I'm very comfortable in either one. For me, I think it's important for people to understand that I'm a tried and true conservative Republican. I have the highest score for liberty as given by the Virginia Tea Party in the entire General Assembly. So, people can't say, well, she's fluctuating on her values. I've got a voting record to back up my values. But that is why for a week, by default, I was an independent candidate because I feel I have that many concerns, with what I saw over the years with conventions. I've got concerns over those, and I'm going to address those.
I've the same concerns, but running as an independent is stupid. You can't win. All you do is increase McAuliffe's victory, or whoever the Democratic nominee is, right? And that's not a done deal. I still think Fairfax is going to be the nominee, but all it does is hurt the Republicans. Except it helps them down ballot because you'll get a bigger vote out. But let me just ask you this, Amanda. And I'm going to bring Patty into this. Patty, I mean, I hate conventions, right? But they voted for a convention, and they voted for a convention to stop Amanda from winning a primary. Now, Amanda is running in the convention. Now they want to change it from a convention to a primary to stop Amanda from winning the convention. So my question is, why even have this? Why not just turn the party over to Amanda Chase and be done with it?
John, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit there, and with Senator Chase as well. I'm on the State Central Committee. I'm on the Executive Committee as the committee woman, and we had two very, very clear votes. It was reconsidered. It was brought up again. We had two very clear votes when we met in December, and the majority was for a convention. I don't know anybody that voted for a convention that did so based on Amanda Chase. Now, certainly not any of the conservatives I know. Some other people that joined us to vote who are normally primary people, I don't know why they did that. If they did it because of animosity towards Senator Chase, then that's their issue. But we very, very clearly voted on that. And to tell you the truth, after what we just witnessed on November the 3rd, this is not the year that I want to turn over to Ralph Northam and his bureaucrats the choice of our nominee. Call me crazy, but I think that Republican voters should choose our Republican nominees in a process controlled by Republicans. I know that's wild and way out on a limb, but if I were Hertz, I don't want Avis picking who's going to manage my business.
Well, then why not have a firehouse primary? You could easily do that without going through the shenanigans of getting delegates, sign them up, driving someplace. Just have a firehouse primary, John, where you pick locations and you go vote.
John, those are not shenanigans. Signing up delegates, they're not shenanigans. It is extremely important that you have delegates sign up. It's not a hard process. Anyone who agrees with Republican principles enough to plan to vote Republican in the general can be a delegate. What we need those pre-files, we need the time to vet people for the committees to put them through. I know it sounds like it doesn't make sense, but to tell you the truth, I don't want people just deciding on the last day to come and pick our candidate, showing up on a bus to do that. I want them to actually be committed to at least casting a vote.
Instead of a million, 500,000 or a million people voting, you want 2,000 people voting.
Why? But
look, I'm not here. We're not going to relitigate conventions. Okay?
Well, I know, because we already voted for a convention.
Already voted. But now you're having a second vote Saturday, Amanda says.
Well, can I just intervene here?
Yes.
Can I speak for y'all? Invited me to come on as your guest.
Save us.
Put a word in. Listen, I respect both opinions. But here is what I have found history has shown. And Patty, I know you're a great conservative. I have so much respect for you as well. And I don't know how long you've been with the party. But I'm telling you, let me tell you the things to look out for in conventions. I have seen political consultants to write the rules of the convention and then see them to slow play those rules. Now, I don't know if you were there in 2012, but Susan Simpson, who was, that is a big year. And I just want y'all to understand the pitfalls that I have seen as a conservative that maybe people are not aware of. And I was the political director for Susan Simpson at the time. It was a 7-way race for lieutenant governor. And what happens is on that second round of, after the first round of voting, they were supposed to display those who made it to the next round. The rules said that they had to show both the percentage that they won by and the order. Well, what happened is they dropped my candidate, who's a lot like holding political consultants and the political elite accountable. They took her name and they dropped it at the bottom, and then they didn't show the numbers for a while. They delayed the rules, and so as a result, and John, I don't know if you remember this or not, but you could hear audible gasp, because what had happened was most people had voted assuming that Susan Simpson had finished last.
Yes.
When indeed she had only finished fourth, and they were between Corey Stewart and Susan Simpson.
Yes.
And so because they had already voted, had already turned in their ballots and did not see the numbers displayed, because that's what consultants do. They slow play their rules. And so whenever they finally put the numbers up, now keep in mind, we're technically following the rule, but not really. You heard an audible gasp in that Coliseum. I ran down to the belly of the convention center. I shut down the convention for 3 hours. I had a major discussion with Pat Mullins, Chris LaSavia, who was Cuccinelli's consultant.
Yes.
Susan would not recognize Susan Simpson from the floor of the Senate. She's a great conservative who they did wrong. And I will never, that experience has been so etched. And I left the political world and went and started a financial services business, and I was finished I was just so tired of that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because I had seen, we saw it again with Jim Gilmore versus Bob Marshall, our conservative candidates become the victims at many of these conventions. And what I will tell you as someone who collected over 400 delegate forms, we have the challenge now of each of the units, each of the committees has a different deadline. They'll give you a call, and grassroots candidates have to keep track of when these deadlines are, and then you have to submit them by the date and the time. Now, what I will tell you is they can also blackball those people. We saw that with Cantor versus Blatt. When they slated or blackballed and told a number of candidates that they could not participate in the process. I have seen it all. I have bruises and scars, and I just simply, for those who are kind of new conservatives to the Republican Party, be very careful what you wish for, because that's what I was told
I agree with
when
you
I came
100%.
into the party.
I agree with you. I think conventions are horrible. They stink. They're a disaster. I don't agree with Patty. I hate them all. And I think we should have a primary where you have to go and vote and run a campaign. And if Glenn Youngkin is going to try to spend $40 million, you were going to beat him anyway. So it didn't matter to me. But I don't want to continue to litigate that. Patty, 2 words. What is going to happen Saturday? Convention or primary?
We are going to stick with the vote that we already had. There's been a robocalling campaign going on targeting those of us on State Central Committee. In fact, with threatening phone calls, with threats of harm. I got a death threat because I voted for a convention. Somebody robocalled voters and said, Patty Lyman voted to take away your right to vote in a primary. Let her know how you feel. And they said they called me and said if that's true, I should have a bullet through my head.
Well, that's not.
So you know what? I don't go for that. I would like to see people. We've had the vote. We had the vote twice, and I'd like to move ahead. How long do we want to string our candidates along? There are candidates that have already started forming their teams, their convention teams, their campaign teams. So Another year, a primary might have been the best thing. I don't really trust the choice of our candidate to Ralph Northam and his gang, his bureaucrats that just ran the last election. But regardless, I think that's where we are, and we owe it to our candidates. Because our bottom line, Senator Chase, and you and I agree on this, we need the best and strongest candidate possible to go against the Democrat. And one thing that I can say about you, I'm not publicly coming out at all because I'm committee woman. I'm not going to publicly endorse in the primary. But you've got fight. You've got stones. You're not afraid of anybody or anything. And I could see you very strongly excelling in a convention or a primary. I actually think more so in a convention.
I appreciate that. And you know, Patty, I will tell you this. If there is no cheating involved, I do believe that I would win a convention. And you know, I can, and by the way, I just want to say for the record, those robocalls, as strongly as I feel about primaries, I would never, ever be a part of any type of robocalls. I think that is completely inappropriate.
It's been extremely frightening to a number of us.
Yeah, it makes you wonder who is actually behind that.
Who's behind that?
I mean, I know it's somebody that wants a primary.
Somebody has to spend the money for that.
Yeah, somebody. I think there's several factions of people that are behind that.
Let's look at the candidates and conjecture. Obviously, it isn't Amanda. She wouldn't do that.
Right.
And she can win a convention, so it's not Amanda Chase, it's not Senator Chase, it's not P. Snyder, because P. Snyder was lobbying for a convention, so you can forget that. And who's that leave? That leaves Kirk Cox would never do that. He doesn't care.
No.
He's equal chance in either format, and that only leaves the China guy.
Well, there's a faction of people that know they can only...
Chinese calling.
Right, yeah.
He's got his Chinese people calling.
Exactly. There's a faction of people that know they can only get they want to move the Republican Party leftward, and they know the only way to get a liberal candidate is through a primary.
All right, we only got a couple more minutes with Amanda. I want to get to something, Amanda, that you've got to address. You've made some...
Sure.
You've made some very controversial posts in the last several weeks on Facebook.
Which one? There are plenty.
I don't really even know where to start. There's a cornucopia.
I speak the truth. I'm the Godzilla of truth and politics.
We have a smorgasbord to pick from. But, you know, some of these comments that you're making, I just want to ask you on the air straight up, right? And I'm not going to go into them because we don't have time, but they're very controversial, and they could be called divisive, or they could be called extreme. But how, if you're the nominee, all that's going to come up. How is that going to play in a general election where you've got to win votes in Northern Virginia? Trump just got beat here. I was the chairman. We got beat by 400,000 votes. I mean, the Northern Virginia Democratic vote is off the charts. We're losing every college town, Blacksburg, Norfolk, Richmond, Williamsburg, you get hammered in, Harrisonburg. You got those statements, you're the nominee, okay, you win. How do they play in, and how can you possibly compete in a general election having posted some of that stuff? And I don't ask this out of gotcha, I just want to explain.
No, I'm so glad. You can ask me any question you want. And I think that's what most people find refreshing about my campaign. I'm a real person with real emotions. I don't have some... I'm just myself. And the reactions that I put out there, sometimes I'm joking around with people, like, come on, let's get real. But, sometimes I try to help people to find the humor in the situation. I have a lot of folks, when you run for governor, you get a lot of trolls on there. I mean, I so sympathize, Patty, with, the death threats and everything. And, I thank God, have, security and that type of thing. And I'm going to continue to speak boldly and strongly. But the one thing that people will know is I'm always going to speak the truth. And sometimes that is not popular to speak the truth. But the people trust me. They know my voting record. They know that I'm a conservative. And I don't mind going toe-to-toe with people who I know who are never going to support me. And, if you look at what they did I stood very closely with Dave Bratt whenever he he ran the last time, and I just saw Dave is such a nice guy, and they just bullied him and beat him up, and I decided I am not. There is a line. I will not be a punching bag.
I'm running out of time. You've not answered my question.
I will not be a punching bag for liberals.
You've not answered my question.
What's your question?
Answer my question, and then I got to go. And then we'll have you back tomorrow. We'll have you back
maybe I didn't understand. Why do I say controversial things?
No, that's not what I said. I didn't say why you said it. You have a right to say it. A lot of people respect you for saying it. But with those statements made publicly on Facebook or other posts, how do you translate that into winning a general election in a blue state?
Give me an example of a controversial statement.
Okay. You have echoed General Flynn's call for various things which I can't say on the air.
Okay, so I am simply agreeing with General Flynn that I do believe the Democratic Party has committed treason against our country. They have systematically gone through legislative process to ensure a number of ballot securities have been destroyed, either legally or not, with a number of different methods that they use, taking away witness signatures, elimination of voter ID, voter boxes with no security. All of these things we're seeing systematically. We've seen, the systems, the issues with thousands of votes being switched with the Dominion voting systems and those types of things. And the people in Virginia also feel like their election is stolen. I hear this across the entire state, and they're like, do something about it. Nobody seems to be doing something other than David Gordon with the Virginia Project, Sidney Powell, and of course, Michael Flynn has been very vocal, Rudy Giuliani, the president's attorney. And my frustration, and I remember my husband and I were driving home, is do something. Like, it is that bad that we need to do something drastic. Now, I'm not talking about a full-fledged martial law. I mean, that would be ridiculous. But if people look very carefully, I talk about a limited martial law, which is exactly what General Flynn, those were his very words, and it was his very words that were right after he was pardoned by President Trump, and that was his recommendation. That at that point we need to go in and seize the Dominion voting systems because they're destroying evidence with every passing day. The evidence is being destroyed, and it was a sense of urgency that we need to go in and do these things. Right. So I stand by my statement that I think something drastic needs to take place where we feel like I'm just going to say it, our election was stolen. And we need to be able to go through and have a full criminal investigation of what is happening.
I agree with that, but and I've got to go.
So how does that play out in the general election?
How do you convince moderate Democrats to vote for you? I mean, this is a blue state, so
I'm going to tell you the answer to that. I'm going to tell you the answer. They love that I am the strongest candidate for governor on gun rates, 100% rating with VCDL, A rating with the NRA. Kirk Cox can't say that. Look at his scores. He actually opposed my gun bill for our first responders after it had passed the full Senate, a subcommittee in the House. He votes against it and tanks my gun bill. He got it in 2019, an 88 from VCDL, 2018, a 79. From VCDL, who's one of the most active pro-gun groups in Virginia. I mean, Philip Van Cleve is just, he is the Virginia NRA. NRA continues to have, he's just incredible. I have been the 2A unifier. I have never compromised on the Second Amendment. I have the highest score of any candidate, all 50 of them that are running for governor. That's what's going to unify people. I had people in Dickinson County who've been lifelong Democrats who came up to me and said, I'm supporting you, Chase, because of your stance on the Second Amendment. And when they get a picture with me, and the people in the town, their jaws were dropping. They're like, you don't understand. This guy's a lifelong Democrat. But, we're seeing that in Southwest Virginia where these folks are really our people. I spent almost the whole summer in Southwest Virginia and in Northern Virginia talking to these people and developing relationships. They say that most candidates never go west of Roanoke. Mm-hmm. And I think that whenever they realize Amanda Chase values and cares for them, instead of going hunting, they are registering to vote. And with Ted Nugent, we've got Hunt the Vote out there to capture these people who have always been with us. But, you know, they didn't have a candidate that excited them, that was truly for them. They haven't had their Second Amendment right.
Well, that's an answer.
Compromised.
I'll give you this, Amanda Chase, Senator Chase. That's an answer. I'm going to have you back on tomorrow because we just ran out of time.